What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today I need to admit that I was wrong. Back at the launch of Destiny 2, I was extremely excited for how this game played. It was a sequel that managed to rework a lot of the concepts established in the original game and do something that felt different. The new mechanics, new environments, and all new plotline felt like it was trying to begin again, taking things in a new direction while still keeping itself in the same universe. However, since then, it seems like the entire community has fallen apart. The lack of in-game content or good patches have kind of made people just quit by the millions. Well, I wanted to do something and try and take a second look, to go back to the game and see what's been completely overhauled since last I picked it up. Over the course of the last week, I've spent a lot of time going back through the Curse of Osiris DLC, doing some strikes and spending tons of hours in the Crucible. That way I can learn how much this game has tried to evolve. And it seems like the more they work on it, the more they manage to completely break it. As of now, we've just gotten the release of a giant new update, the biggest expansion yet, Warmind. This is intended to be a fresh start, a way to try and make this game actually attract some of the people who have already quit. And as somebody who's just coming back to it, it seems like a good idea that never quite blooms into the flower at once. So what is it? The Warmind DLC is a new plotline focusing on us returning to Mars, seeing what's all taken place, and really, this is an interesting place to start because it's where the entire Destiny universe actually began. The story of Destiny begins with humans discovering the Traveler circling around this planet, so going back here to try and see a new origin, it feels appropriate. However, I have to say, this is actually one of the biggest letdowns is the story itself. While I think the writing is better than it was previously, and the characters at least make sense, I have to say, it's very disappointing that you can beat all the story missions in this DLC in 120 minutes. Seriously, in less than 2 hours, I'd seen basically every single cutscene that introduced the main bad guy until eventually I killed the main bad guy. I feel like it's really bizarre to try and act like this is going to be a giant new confrontation when we're going to be blowing through every single big new foe in less than freaking a couple hours. Why did they hype this up so much? Okay, I'm being a little bit unfair. If you've played any Destiny, you know that the point isn't actually the story. It's not about getting to learn all this stuff, it's about the shoot and loot action, repeating content over and over again to get bigger guns and bigger gear in order to compete ever greater with the upcoming raids. So here is where I think the game is really falling flat, but they have made some very crucial improvements. As of this update, they've actually gone back and redone several of the most powerful exotics, making guns that had some really strange problems with them function a lot more smoothly. And I have to say, in that aspect, it is better. This is actually kind of making it where if you find a rare gun, it actually feels appropriate. It makes you feel strong enough to take on that next challenge. I still don't think it's great though. So many of these weapons still feel a little bit sluggish or just not quite actually adequate to the tasks at hand. And I say that because the newest major addition to the Warmind DLC is a new Horde mode style game type called Escalation. So essentially, now after you've beaten the main story, which don't worry, of course, only takes a couple minutes, you can now go up to these giant standees. Any of these that are glowing, you press square on it and activate it. And it basically starts a giant public event right there, which makes it where tons of enemies start attacking you in waves, and you need to try and survive as long as possible. The quicker you're able to kill them, the more loot you get. Don't worry though, you don't actually have to do this by yourself. Since it's a public event, you can bring a fire team with you, but others can also just wander up and assist. In fact, I was getting my butt kicked pretty hardcore because these enemies are so extremely strong, but when I had other people wandering up, we stood a little bit of a chance. We could last through several waves and some of these really big mega enemies and actually score some pretty good gear out of it. As I progress though, I noticed that it still feels a little bit paper thin. I really like Mars as an environment, and I think the new side quests that you can pick up all around the place, those are really well done. Escalation itself though, it seems like it's only half of an idea. It seems like they're trying to take a lot of different ideas and pieces of elements that have existed in Destiny 1 and things that people have enjoyed the most and just tried to glue them together to see what would actually work. Now, Escalation is probably going to improve a lot from here. Currently the light level cap is 340 of getting some pretty decent strong stuff, but as they start to open up the strikes and raid towards the later week and towards the end of the month, everybody is going to start having some really strong stuff to actually battle off all these waves of enemies. As this entire process becomes smoother, I feel like we'll be able to better appreciate Escalation as a game type, because it almost feels like it's just not quite ready yet. I think they're probably going to end up toning down some of the enemies and making it where they drop better gear right at the start, so you feel like you're being better equipped for the process of Escalation just by playing Escalation. The last thing I really want to touch on is something that actually hits the closest to home for me. I am a really big fan of the Crucible. In fact, over the course of the original Destiny and the sequel, I've spent about 86 to probably 95 hours just playing in the PvP Crucible. I really like it because it feels very quick and brutal. While the time to kill and just general flow is still a little bit more sluggish than other first-person shooters, I feel like the objectives and general things you're trying to do, they feel a little bit more important. When I'm out there in the arena, I really feel like I'm doing something great with every single kill I manage to score. However, there is something that's been really holding this back, which is that it's still stuck on only a 4v4 game type. Every single thing you play, whether it be attrition or trying to basically capture the flag in the suppression points, I think it's just not quite made for 4v4. It feels like it's supposed to have 6v6. In fact, they even put 6v6 into the game for a bit and then removed it again, making it only available for Iron Banner events. It seems like this is still badly needed. Having only 8 players, especially in these newer, larger maps, it feels like a big oversight. It really feels like they wanted to try and make something expansive, but for some reason they don't know how to balance it. I know it's just the fact that it still just seems like Crucible isn't quite finished, which is weird because this game has been out for almost a year now and they still don't have all the bugs sorted out. However, I do have to say though that something I really did absolutely love about the Warmind DLC when it comes to PvP is the fact that there are now these 2 special factions, so to speak. Now, if you want, you can assign yourself as being a glory fighter or a valor fighter. These actually basically make it of easy mode or hard mode when it comes to PvP. You still compete in random matches just like normal, but there is now an added bonus. With one that's a little bit simpler, it makes it where every time you get kills or get experience in the arena, it slowly levels up that faction, making it where you can buy better gear and get a little bit stronger. However, if you want to try and truly challenge yourself and get some of the greatest equipment, that's going to require you get the other faction. Now with this, the only thing that matters is winning. Every match that you claim victory in, you level up. You get a little bit stronger within this faction until eventually you get the super weapons at the absolute top. But if you lose, you also lose experience points, making it where you rewind in faction experience. I like both these options because I feel like there's finally a real weight to the Crucible. So many games games these days, it doesn't seem like anybody truly loses. Since everybody is getting experience points and credit to some aspect, it seems like anybody will just be able to hit max rank at the very end of the day. But with this, only the very best players are going to reach the highest echelons of this faction, and therefore have the sweetest gear to utterly decimate their opponents. Overall, it's easy to see that they are working on this. Destiny 2 is a growing experience, and like any online game, it could change at the drop of a hat. I do admire the fact that the developers themselves have even been apologizing on Twitter recently for how broken this game has become, but I can definitely see the bright side coming. While this game is still flawed, it's beginning to get a little bit better than the absolute travesty that it was in the past. Okay, so we've heard some good and some bad, but let's over the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Destiny 2, as it currently is, a 6 out of 10. If you're thinking about going back to Destiny at this point, I still don't recommend it. If for some reason you already have the original Destiny 2 and the first expansion, Curse of Osiris, and you're thinking about coming back for this one, I would say maybe. I think the new stuff and the short new story is interesting, but even for $20, it seems like it's a bit too much for how little content you're really getting. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. This has been DreamcastGuy with another review. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Alright, I'll be honest, I'm probably going to go uninstall this game because after going back through it, I kind of feel like I've seen everything I need to see. Oh, hey! I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.